Hello, this is SA here, and if you like this video, please go watch my show on Amazon Prime. But by mistake, also you can subscribe to Film Companion on YouTube. Both are okay.
Film Companion South.
Film Companion South.
No, say it again.
Vanakkam, SA, aka Aravind Subramaniam.
Vanakkam, BR, aka the baddie. Oh,
Okay.
ஒரு ஃப்ளோல வந்துருச்சு.
Your show was released yesterday. What's it like?
Well, today morning I was getting classes from friends on how to process feedback, how to align yourself with what to take, because you can't live in a world without feedback. You can't be oblivious.
Right.
At the same time, it can get redundant after a point of time as well. So I was actually having a very deep conversation of should I set up a system, because this is going to happen for the rest of my life for as long as I do this.
Right.
But when you're an individual person, especially in this kind of a job as a comedian and as a director and producer, all of these things that you take up in this role, it's kind of overburdening yourself. So there's a learning here. Next time I do something like this, I've just been observing or taking notes on, okay, to be able to filter out the things, but at the same time have a system that gives you the kind of qualitative stuff that you can work on.
Right.
You can't be tone deaf either. So
Okay, so what kind of feedback has it been like? I mean, what do you find difficult to take? As in, like, obviously when you're doing material also, there are going to be people who say things like, this is working, this is not, and then at the end of the day, you have to take a call and say, you know what, I've got this feedback, but ultimately it's my judgment and I'm saying that this is what it is, right?
yeah.
So having exercised that final judgment, what is difficult to take in this?
I haven't exercised final judgment yet,
Okay.
because I'm expecting that to happen over the weekend.
Okay.
But to be honest, nothing over the weekend will tell you what you didn't know over the last 100 shows.
Right.
But of course, when you do 100 shows, you're performing it to a people who paid to come and align with you.
Right, and there's also energy there. Yeah.
And there's an alignment that makes you feel comfortable. Whereas when you're putting it out there in a public market, no, anything can go anywhere, which is why you need to be more focused on what feedback you take on the system you set for that.
Right.
So I'm waiting for the weekend to set in, because this is when I think people are actually going to sit and make a plan and watch it, and then probably make the final judgment. But based on initial impressions, it's all the joy and effort you put, it's very evident. There's no hiding for anything, good and bad.
Okay. What is your persona? Like Seinfeld, a stand-up comedian that like the world knows, his persona is basically that of a man who nitpicks, finds jokes in the minutest of everyday things, right? What is essay?
I wouldn't know, because what I think I am is not often what is being perceived as well. So therefore, it's a very tricky question to answer.
Right.
I guess.
But let me just interrupt. Do you try to put a persona on stage?
No.
It's just a series.
It's an extension of my personality.
Okay.
That's pretty much how I can operate. Otherwise, it's very uncomfortable. As it is, extending your personality to thousands of people itself is uncomfortable.
Right.
Imagine extending it to someone you would aspire to be, or you become after 8 o'clock in the night. That's even harder, right? So I would just say it's an extension. I don't have any specific vision of this is my persona, but you keep getting perceptions or reinforcements from people of, oh, this is who you are, etc. So then you have to believe whether, okay, should we take it or not. But if you have to broadly give parameters to it, I would say relatability would be a big deal, because I can't talk about something that I don't understand.
Right.
So therefore, I keep that very, like, you would never see me getting into politics, even though I know there's, say, superb jokes if you can just take current affair political stuff and combine it with another situation and say, and make an analogy out of it. There's a Rahul Gandhi joke waiting to happen every time if you want to.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't give you any kicks, how the formula works,
right,
I wouldn't do that at all. So no matter how vulnerable I feel as an artist to want a joke. So therefore, I try to stick to anecdotal things, because it comes from a real place. It's been done many times to many friends. So it's easy to.
So we spoke about persona, but what is your personality like? Is there this expectation that SA is a funny guy, so he must always be in a very happy place and a happy zone?
Yeah.
Is that something? Because a lot of comedians, one thing that's been consistent throughout the years is when you hear a comedian speak is that they've often had very sad lives or tragic lives, which is not like what I want for you. But what I'm trying to say is that the effort to make people laugh and putting yourself out there just for the sole purpose of making people laugh, does that take a toll, or is there a like something that sometimes you're like, shit, I'm feeling like rock bottom today, but I have to go out there and pretend to be this person who's full of energy and like, you know.
You're now making very uncomfortable. You're taking notes from my secret book.
Okay.
That's what I write in my diary on certain shows. Says you're right. You do. But what do you do when you do 100 shows? Because the thing is this about a performer's life. Your personal life it's very hard to demarcate.
Right.
Right? You can't step in and step out like how you would in a 9-to-5 job. So that many a times certain things would have been happening in your personal life, but that sad day you have a 2,000-seater show in Chennai and they're like, hey, I've heard so much about this, I want to go crazy, you better entertain me kind of thing. And you're like, bro, please, can I can I just sulk for a bit? So, but let me put it this way, thankfully for me, stage, once I get on stage, it's actually therapeutic. There's been 9 out of 10 times, 99% of the times I would say I've felt therapeutic. There's probably the odd time here or there you feel, why am I doing this? Because if the crowd is also not giving you an energy, or probably it's not working for them, for that particular crowd, and then you're also having a bad week, but it's very rare. So which is why I never bring it up. What I realize is, once you get that alignment, once you get a laugh, then the next 90 minutes is like, hey, enjoy this because the week, Monday is very near and you have to go back to reality. So there is this constant need to, be in the moment and at the same time remove yourself from the moment because there's a hangover of that moment as well.
Right. Does that hangover help you, like supposing you're sulking in the morning, does that crowd and that feeling that you take away, does it help to kind of quell that sulking?
It does. But then the next day you have to quickly unlearn all the ups of the previous night's show.
Right.
So it works both ways, right? Like you might have had a kick-ass weekend performing to thousands and you made a great impact that reminds you of why you want to do this.
Right.
And you found new jokes in spontaneous stuff that you noted down, etc. And then Monday you have to get back to the grind to something else. So it's so hard. It's a continuous mental battle to switch. At least if you're someone like me who takes things to heart. If you're a chill person, I'm sure this is the greatest job in the world. Imagine Monday to Friday you do work related things, and then Saturday, Sunday is where you make your money. It's a great job if you're chill, but no comedian is ever chill.
I don't think chillness and a live act and all, I don't think they're kind of compatible.
Yeah.
And I think another thing is also that something that makes me curious, because for me as a reviewer, I find myself unable to watch a film without a certain amount of X-ray vision, right? So, I enjoy it, but there's also parallel processing going on. So, I'm wondering for you, is it possible to go through life without processing it through the filter of, can this become a joke? Can this become material? Can this become like something?
No, that I'm very comfortable. I don't necessarily look out for material that way.
Okay.
But it's very hard to give you a similar analogy. It's very hard for me to sit through other people's works without doing the same kind of due diligence.
You mean like other comedians' work?
Any story.
Okay.
My forte here is not comedy. It so happens it's the medium in which I want to tell stories.
Right.
My forte would say, as in by forte what I mean what I aspire to do. So therefore any story form, it's very hard to sit through it because you're perennially sitting there saying, why are you not doing this, or how would you do this, or why can't we apply this in a different way, etc., etc. So I would rather obsess over things that are finished rather than things that are mundane around us, because what is mundane around us is anyways inside us. It's like you anyways take it in.
But tell me, no, so what I'm saying is, so your friends take you to the strip club in Seattle, which is part of the set here. Now, you're processing that, are you in the moment there?
No chance. There's something really wrong with me. If in that moment there, I'm like, excuse me, I have to write for my next special.
No. I'm not saying that you're writing for the next special, but I'm saying that, are you applying a kind of filter saying, wow, this is actually a fantastic moment, I should do something about this?
No. So, which is why I'm very comfortable in not taking notes in real life, because most of the times the things that I write come from a place of strong emotion and pain.
Right.
Which is, later I have the awareness or the ability to convert that into a angst-ridden story.
Okay.
So therefore, which is one of the reasons why I wrote that quote at the end of the show, which is my finishing quote that says, when life throws shit at you,
Hit
take
it,
the
hit
hit.
back, yeah.
Which is honestly how I realized all of this material came.
Okay.
Because none of it happened, because you're talking about, some of the stories are 10 years old,
Yeah.
the one night stand is 10 years old, the strip club is 5 years old, the Leeds United is like 12 years
Yeah,
old.
yeah,
So
yeah.
these are all moments that I've experienced. So when it's legit, so when I sit to write, I just go back into my story banks in my head and I put them together. It is painful then, but then today if I have to tell it, the only way I can tell people that is by ranting about it, and therefore the humor. So there's no way in that moment. In fact, if something's, let me put it, this might be weird to hear, first time I'm processing something like this. If something bad happens, no, there's a small person inside somewhere saying, okay, this can be material in the future. But I'm like, do not entertain that, because then you keep attracting more of that.
Right. But no, I'm saying, how do you like not forget that stuff? Do you have a method for, or does it just come back naturally?
Well, that's when you have friends to whom you perennially keep moaning about it too.
Right.
Not to create material out of it, but just to get it out of your system, because if that's in your personality.
Right.
It's in my personality to moan a lot, to be anxious a lot. It's definitely there for as long as I've been existent. I've got that from my mom. So,
Right.
so therefore, I realized then what I moan a lot about eventually ends up becoming a narrative,
Right.
An ideology or a point or whatever. Then when I sit down to write, that's the first thing that comes out.
So how autobiographical is it? Like definitely, like, yes, all the things that happened in the set happened to you, but like when you stretch it out or when you weave it into a comedic narrative, like which is actually a very tough thing to do. Do you ensure that everything that you say happened to you, or do you sometimes weave in little fictional stuff to
All the time fictional. And that's why I love this, because which is why the
So the core is yours,
Yeah.
and then you're writing a screenplay kind of thing.
literally that's why I love this which is why I don't consider myself a natural performer or an actor or
Right.
of anything of that sort, because what I do is, hey, it's like almost going back like in a scientific way. Okay, if I try this fictionalized version of this story, it's not working. Okay, let me try a different route.
Right.
Imagine if you have to write different versions of a screenplay,
Right.
but you have an ability to immediately try it out.
Yeah.
Whereas you can't keep making different films and put yourself out there.
Yeah.
That's the way I see this. So it gives me, if you're obsessed about tweaking and tweaking and tweaking,
Right.
this particular show itself, I have done so many versions of, say, the strip club story ending in a different way, or
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
passport revealing
Yeah,
thing.
and I saw the show and I remembered certain tweaks that you'd done like that were kind of different in this version. So when you're trying it out, right, which basically means variations on a theme, night in, night out, night in, night out, how do you ensure that you don't get bored? See, I'll take my example. Even though my broad area is film criticism, the films vary.
Yeah.
So every time I go to
You
a
have
film, there's a change, even though but for you, you're literally trying out the same material with tweaks, something like that, till you finish one stretch, and then you move on to your next like new show or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that
Fatigue.
yeah,
Yeah, so there's a phase. It's a bit of a nuanced answer. The first 20-30 shows, there's no fatigue, because the first 20-30 solo shows of a particular new show that you've created, it takes 30 shows for you to get comfortable with it.
Right.
It takes 30 shows for you to get enough data to know, okay, this is my best bits, these are my weak bits, this is where it goes up, this is where it goes down, this is where you need to find a universal way of everyone relating to it, this the Tamilians get, etc., etc. After that, around 40-50, you are set, you are on autopilot.
right,
You also don't want to tweak any further. You really want to draw the line.
right,
From 40-50 onwards is when you're a professional. By that, what I mean is, my motivation is the fact that it might be old to you, but it's new to each and every person who's coming there.
Right.
If they are excited about it, then you bloody well damn be. Because I consider it a very privileged position to actually be in a position where somebody is paying money to see you talk.
yeah.
So therefore, அவ்வளோ இருக்கும்போது பொத்திட்டு perform பண்றா, so that every time fatigue kicks in, that's all I ask for. Are they excited? Then why would you not be?
Right.
Do you will not remember where we started
So that
from?
there's a bit of self-motivation there.
There's a bit of grounding, self-motivation, a lot of things. It's literally a tough love to say, you want to go back to where it was. I'm like, no, I don't want to. I'd rather do this.
Do you, like boxers, do you have people around you to kind of like pep you up and kind of?
No, I have this. That's
you?
I
Okay.
just keep punching myself
Okay.
because that's the only way I feel it helps in creating a better product or better work.
Right.
It keeps pushing yourself. So I'm very critical of myself. So that way, I enjoy it. It's as long as the tough part is my team doesn't enjoy working. So
Right.
because it's always punching for betterment, which
Right.
I realize in hindsight, I'll work on it next time. I don't know, let's make it a lot less lot more lighter with the same learnings. It's possible.
When you just talked about will the Tamilians get this and all that, so I was not ready when you went and performed in, let's say, I don't know, Chandigarh, Delhi, whatever.
Gurgaon, Noida.
Gurgaon, Noida, yeah. What were the bits that, can you tell me a bit that changed? For example, you have one bit where your mother is making molaga bhaji, bonda, something like that, and giving you it in a dabba, and you're like, so what would you do there?
That's it. So a bhaji would probably become a pakoda.
Okay.
That's small tweaks. But then, so the hard work, the majority of the work, I would do it at the script level itself. Right. I would not take I would create a script that doesn't require much tweaking from city to city, as long as I know Indians are my target audience.
Right.
When I know that, then if my uncertain element is, say, North Indians, because South Indians, even though we have different languages, there is some level of bhaji is still bhaji in most places. Right? So, whereas the North Indians is who you look out for. So, in that sense, as I try to take references or I try to quote out of pop culture, we all take out of. Like, Mahabharatam and Doordarshan, is for example, we all know that.
Right.
Valmiki and Ramayana is something we all know.
Right.
So, I wouldn't do Kamban. That's
so you wouldn't do Vadivelu, for instance?
Yeah, I wouldn't do.
Okay.
But then the beautiful thing though is about Vadivelu can inspire you to take that modulation and perform it with English. So suddenly you don't even realize where I took it from. But I know I wouldn't ever claim any of these reactions to be a natural or something that I have great. Often when people tell me, hey, you have great timing, blah blah blah, I feel so imposter like, because I know where it's coming from. Something is if you do a aha, but if you do that in say with some other English word, okay, you automatically give it a new look. Very few would immediately connect that to, isn't that a Vadivelu's aha? Or a Goundam is saying, shut up your mouth, you dirty mouth, something like that. No, if I do something of that sort, nobody ever connects it with a Tamil comedian, given my whole show is in English, but I get all my inspiration from people who I grew up idolizing, right? So, like a crazy Mohan would say stuff like that and all, I don't know. But when it's part of a Tamil comedy script of his, it sticks out. When it's part of my flow, it becomes my identity. Whereas I'm just inspired by these people.
Now, one of the things we talked about persona early on, I think one thing that definitely comes out is that you are a South Indian Tamil comic. That is coming through whether or not, and that's something that you wear very openly, right? Now, when one of the things that you've also been saying for the longest time is that, and it's part of this set also, is that North Indian comics get away with using local words that sometimes Southern comics, aren't able to get away with. Do you think the playing field has kind of been leveled from the time you started to now?
It's getting better.
Okay.
For me, it's not the problem that they get away with it. It's more the problem that we get brandished in a certain way because of it. I'm all for it. It's not like because that sounds like level. I wouldn't want to, as much as comedians are petty people. It's more a case of, I understand why he's doing that, because when he slurs in his local lingo, that's when he gets that emotion out. He has to be himself. A comedian has to be an honest person. Likewise for me, mentioning is a natural way of saying, why the hell are you annoying me? Right? But the minute I realize the disposition is, the minute you do that, these 5-6 years of solo shows, this immediate reaction would be, "Arey Tamil jokes aa gaya," and that disappoints me. It's like, therefore, why it disappoints me? Because I would like to take this to as many people. It's not like I don't like Tamil. I can't be more Tamil than this. It's like when I talk in English, they're like, "Why are you talking in Tamil?" Some North Indians. That hurts me. I'm like, "This English ta, this accent ta Tamil." But the point is, when you know comedy like medium, stand-up comedy like medium, lets you go beyond these boundaries. It's very motivating. Hey, it's like I can be myself and yet I can connect you with my South Indian stories. Let's become language agnostic, like how Malayalam films today are right now getting on the map because of this connectivity, right? Why can't we do that to comedy? I'm sure, because that's one of the reasons why I think OTTs made a difference. Because once my first show went on Amazon Prime, Madras Ida, and I saw the audiences for the I Was Not Ready, the diversity started increasing. It's never happened before. And that's when this is because of the OTTs. You start seeing non-Tamilians who come and appreciate the fact that you kept it in English. Out of the 100 people you meet after a show, if 5 also come and tell you that, at least for me that's good enough. Hey, there's 5 sitting there who feel, hey, the fact that he kept it in English for 98% despite seeing an overwhelming Tamilness to this, I appreciate that, is how I feel when I go to a North Indian comic show who comes to Chennai and he comfortably breaks into Hindi lines, and I look at all my friends, they're like, why is he talking in Hindi? Thinking, Because when you get that, you need to be empathetic.
Right.
You can't be like, I'll also do Tamil because they did. Rather, I'm saying, you guys do this, but you know what we should do.
So one of the things that you've done over the 5-6 years now is to become Chennai's star stand-up comedian. Now there are a lot of people. There are a lot of people who want to do this after seeing how successful you've become. Is it possible for somebody to be a Tamil comic and reach the level that you attained? That is like make jokes in Tamil, create a Tamil show, and kind of thing like this language agnostic thing that you can. Let's assume that like the opera in the like say where they have the subtitles running for the Italian words.
Correct.
Let's assume that scenario is possible.
Yeah.
Do you think that such a thing is even possible?
You're asking like, can the Narcos equivalent?
Yeah.
Narcos is in Mexican
Yeah,
and we're
well,
still
Spanish,
saying
yeah.
it. No, not for comedy.
Not for comedy.
Simply because
It's too specific.
yes,
Yeah.
it works the way it works only because you've heard it, you felt it, you relate to it.
Yeah.
So it's language that makes that connection.
Right.
It's very hard. If it's not language dependent, if I was physical with my acts, gags and things like that, then perhaps.
Yeah.
But not for it's. I don't see it working, which is one of the reasons I want to keep it in English, because what I do see working is English that's not the English that you've heard.
Right.
That I can see working.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Chennai English can become. Why can't it become global? Like,
yeah. In fact, I feel sometimes that maybe the way you speak right now and maybe the way you speak on stage, you're a little more hardcore on stage in terms of stressing that accent. Maybe, I don't know. I just
no, because this is put on for me. That is real.
That is real. Okay, okay. You're putting it on for me.
I'm putting it on for a formal interview like this. I have to, given that that effort requires, because the interview requires you to process and articulate your thoughts. I'm not prepared the script like how I prepare my comedy.
Right, right.
Whereas in the comedy script, it has to be engineered in a certain way for it to work. Because that's the only way I would consume it.
Right.
And as long as it's honest. It comes from an honest place where I know this is an extension of who I am.
Yeah.
I can't go and roll my R's on stage there.
Yeah,
because that would definitely be Aravind, hey, nee Aravind. I think it's about being able to also stay true to that, because our comedy is all about that vulnerability. Do you feel awkward about Aravind? No, keep saying it. Keep talking about it. Then eventually on stage you embrace it. They'll also accept you for that. That's a great feeling.
What do you tell people then when they come and say, like, I'm sure you have lots of people are doing stand up here saying, like, looking up to you and coming up to you for advice. What do you say? Tell them.
I tell them, please wait 10 years before you ask me anything, because I honestly, if you ask me, I consider myself we're like a beginner's level, given what a stand-up comedy in US and all, for example, is an 80-year-old industry.
Yeah.
And all that. It's been 10 years. 2010 we started in Chennai. Bombay was around 2008. Then solo shows started happening when OTTs entered India in around 2015-16 is when solo shows happened.
Right.
So in a 5-year industry, most leading comics in India, by leading I just mean by popular ones, are 2 specials old. Veer Das is 4 or 5 specials old. The rest of my contemporaries are all 2 to 3 specials old. So it's going to take us so many more specials before we can even consider, at least for me, that's the standard I would like to hold, a body of work. And a body of work that can be legitimized as an industry. And then maybe look back and say, okay, here's what you need to do. Which is why if anybody comes and asks me the question, it makes me very uncomfortable, because I just tell them, hey, hop along, come ride with me.
Right.
The only thing I can tell is what I apply, which is stage time is the only way you improve. Whereas there's no other, I can't give you any other specific advice, because I need more data to believe this is here to stay.
So how do you think that, some people say this, that stand-up comedy is a middle class or upper middle class or higher phenomenon, because most people are used to comedy as it comes in the movies. See, for us, movies are the basis, right? Correct. It's like, it's the biggest, most democratic of art forms here or anywhere else. So when they're used to, let's just take Tamil cinema, right? We're talking about Gaundamani Sendil, Suruli Rajan, Vadivelu, Tenga Srinivasan, all these people making very specific kinds of jokes within situations in movies. So it's more like situational humor rather than, whereas stand-up by its very nature, it's an imported phenomenon. It's not that we've never had something similar, but this version that people are doing now, that's coming from somewhere else. Do you see it traveling to the smaller centers, going inside, because there's also the cost factor involved? How do you see this as Like, let me put it, right now it seems like a multiplex phenomenon. Do you see it becoming a single screen phenomenon?
I see it already being one. Which is when I feel this is a misconception. I'm glad you asked this. Let me put it this way. One of my first exposure stand-up is, say, Leone.
Right.
And Solomon Papaya and Raja and all those people. What they do is stand up in its own ways. Yeah. There is a humor society that happens in Mylapore where you have the best of humorists coming and putting out their content out there. The only difference is it's not called stand-up comedy. It's not called solo shows.
But it's also not consistently comedy, right?
It is. I've been to those meetings. It's right. 45 minutes of Delhi Ganesh just having joke after joke after joke, and then he'll be followed up by some other theatre art. It's been there. The difference is they don't make a property out of it. They don't call it a show.
Right.
It's just, for them, it's like they just come and talk about humor being a part of everyone's lives. Okay. Whereas here, I make a show out of it, a spectacle out of it.
Right.
So my point is to take, right now stand-up comedy in India does appeal to it's a very upper middle class aspiration thing because of the fact that it stems from the fact that it comes from live shows, and live shows automatically dictate a spending power because the ticket.
But it's also in English, largely.
Which is, English, that's another thing I would like to clarify. If you look at in India today, there are probably 4 comics I can say, or 5, who you can say are doing an all-English special.
Right.
It's Kenny, it's Veer, it's me, it's Kannan, and probably you can name 3 or 4 more. If you take the 50 out, it's either all Tamil, all Hindi. Hindi is killing. Hindi is a way bigger market.
Yeah.
There's a reason why some of them are getting crazy numbers. Even a Kunal Kamra, who's excellent at English, does this entire thing in Hindi. It's not like he doesn't. So I think then that's great. So automatically regional comedy is going to spread.
Right.
So my point being, I feel I don't think stand-up comedy represents any particular, say, society. It's just that it starts as a function of privilege. It is starting for the more privileged ones because to afford a 1,000 rupee ticket, you have to start from the people who have an earning capacity.
Yeah, this is an open mic kind of thing where.
But no, that's never as satisfying as, hey, I want to go to a show.
Yeah.
So I definitely, what I see how I see stand-up comedy in English and OTTs affecting the local comedians is now they'll probably see a way of packaging their own content.
Right.
There are humorists in Vijay TV, Kalakapavudiyar, you see. It's not like they've been there for years.
Yeah.
So the biggest difference I see there is they go there and tell, hey, I'm going to crack a joke. Which is what they've always been told to in that way of profession.
Right.
It's like ஒரு ஆசிரியர் என்ன சொன்னார்னா ஒரு நாளைக்கு 4 பசங்க கிளாஸ்க்கு வந்தாங்க இந்த மாதிரி போவாங்க as opposed to them figuring out, if I make a show out of it. So if I start putting my personality more, instead of joke after joke after joke, I have 80 jokes in my book, it's a 60-minute show.
Right.
Just weave a personality, who you are, why you're saying this. Now make a story out of it and making a show is stand-up comedy. So that influence can happen. Like how I get influence from them, they can definitely pick this up and do it in Tamil because I don't think we need to take it to regional thing. It's already there. But their end goal has always been TV. Their end goal has been cinema. Now this might help them show that your end goal can just be YouTube and OTTs, and a live show can sustain your own revenue.
Right.
Because TV constrains comedy in a way that live shows never does.
Probably language.
Censorship.
Yeah.
TV has such heavy censorship. The kind of things that I speak in this show, I can never talk about, if my end goal was, say, Tamil television, I can never talk about going to a strip club. And therefore, that's one of the reasons why stand-up comedy today is such a novel thing in our art forms, because you are getting major representation for stories that never find its way in cinema. Like one of the reasons I was attracted to this more than cinema, given my background, was because of the fact that I don't think I had the easiest route to be able to tell stories that I experienced. I don't know who it represents, but it represents me. And if I can't get myself in cinema that easily, I'll just take a mic and start telling it myself.
Do you think, let's say the Bombay Jayashree example, do you think that might apply here? She was a very popular Carnatic artist amongst the people that listen to Carnatic music. But then once she sang Vasigra and the occasional song that happened, somehow the audience also grew along with it. So do you see that kind of being helpful to you? Like you're popular in a certain segment, but like you do a couple of movies, the movies are work, then people start coming to you because they recognize you as like somebody like that they would not have encountered.
Correct.
Maybe earlier.
I see that happening if I do the movie route. Veer Das is a perfect example of
Right.
that. He did his first 2 shows and then did Delhi Belly, kind of mainstream
Right,
flick.
and I think he did Love Aajkal.
Love Aajkal, a bunch of things as the American Mapla equivalent of that.
Yeah.
And all of it hit, and then boom, his stand-up also picked up.
Right.
Whether it increases his audience to stand up or not, it increases visibility. Whereas my interests lie in more than doing movies. I want to continue being a storyteller.
No, I'm not saying interest. I'm saying, like, if somebody's offering you, I'm sure people have offered you movies.
Yeah, but I'm not interested
You're not interested
at all.
Is
This is
it
why
like,
I'm very clear. So
Yeah.
far, I've not taken up.
like
at
a
all.
matter of principle?
It's a matter of awareness.
Okay.
If I know where my interests lie and my strengths lie, I don't want to operate in something that's.
Are you saying you can't perform in movies?
Yeah.
Like in front of a camera?
Yeah, I can't.
You're performing in front of a camera now.
Yeah, that's only because I'm being myself.
Okay.
If somebody gives me lines that I have to not judge and just say it just because their convictions in those lines are more important than mine, I can't do that. That's why I want to write my own stuff and do it. It's a matter of ego, artist ego, how you want to put it.
Right.
And I can't do justice to that role. As an ex-assistant director and an aspiring director myself, you know what you expect from
But have
an
you
actor.
tried it? Without trying it, how do you know?
Multiple times in film schools, I've been cast
Okay.
by my colleagues and my classmates in multiple projects, and the kind of efforts they have to go through to just make me sit in one place and remember 2 lines. For someone who remembers 120 minutes of material, I can't remember 2 lines if somebody
Else has done it, okay.
It's a strange phenomenon. I've been discussing this at length with so many friends, but the thing is, I have zero qualms about missing out on acting opportunities because it's not there. I have my own objective, and my Mount Everest is to get back to direction. So if I scale that, I'll be happy. So this is not a big deal.
That's still a thing, the amount, like you want to get back to direction.
It's almost strange. People today are now reacting in a way. எதுக்குப்பா உனக்கு தம்பி என்ன வெளியும் சொல்லியுமா இருக்க ஆக்டிங் பண்ணு I'm like, நான் தப்பி தவறி மைக் எடுத்து பேச
No, but what I'm saying this is interesting because you've already taken a different path. Direction itself is a different path for a lot of Chennaiites, right? It's like it's not the usual path that people take. Now you took that, rejected that, went into stand-up, which is another even more different path.
They rejected me. It's
Right.
like,
Okay. Yeah. So now you weren't there, and then now you're saying you want to get back to direction, like giving up something that is giving you so much of.
ஒரே ஒரு டவுட் why is it this or that? I didn't say give up, no.
Okay.
I won't get back.
Okay.
It is
No, but this is surely an exhausting thing that you do, right?
Yeah, but it is building on your confidence and your strength. Like
Right.
for example, I took up the opportunity to direct. I was not ready for that reason.
Okay.
Okay, as much as I'm a performer, I want to get my hands dirty again with direction.
Okay.
So when my specials, the second one came about, I said I'll do produce and direct it myself. Then you end up controlling every aspect of the project. You end up choosing the teammates who I've had classmates from film school who are all now established professionals in their own right. Like Anand Krishnamurthy did the sound for it. Prasanna, who is the Mari editor who did editing for this. The cinematographer is same guy who did Alex in Wonderland. Classmate of mine from Viscom. So we're all such good friends. It's great to be able to put all of it together and do the actual thing you come out to do. So slowly I hope to do more of this, dabble with it in a bit by bit to give you enough confidence to say, hey, I've built a audience who like to listen to what I have to put out there, and also now a skill set to apply it in different ways, which will not be acting at all, no matter how. Probably the only thing that will make me think is if someone like a Karthik Subbaraj ever asks, because I just the respect for his movies are so much, and I hope he has the temperament to handle a bad actor like me, because then I'll be like, I want to be associated with one work of his, because that's the kind of direction I aspire,
Right.
that inspires. So for that, I don't mind really going out of my way and struggling and all. But any other place, because when you work as an assistant director, you see what actors go through. It's a power. It's like you really need to have the thick skin when 2,000 people are looking at you and a director is looking at you in the sense, even appo you have to give your best shot na.
Yeah.
So that's why I prefer being behind the camera. It's a different skill set. I respect them. I can't do it.
So my last question, you say that to be a comedian, you have to fundamentally be a truth. I'm quoting Aravind. Aravind Subramaniam, I'm quoting. What is that?
I do believe that. In the sense, a comedian has to have a streak about him that would rub people off in a different way. How do I put it? You can't.
Abrasiveness?
Maybe. That can be one way of putting it. Non-conformist can be another. Anti-authority can be one. Or just one need to be incessantly an attention-seeking, in the sense, I want to stand out. There are many ways in which I can articulate that, but you have to have that streak, because I often say, when they ask about comedy, I often say it's not about who's the funniest, but it's about who feels the need to be heard the most.
Right.
And it's such a disappointing answer when they ask me what do you think it makes a comedian. I say it's not about who's the funniest, because in my group I wasn't the funniest, but I felt the need to be heard most. Because the funniest people never put that effort. Because they didn't care. They just needed those 4 laughs amongst a group. Whereas I wanted a bigger thing. Whereas I was never as funny.
Right.
But the need, that hunger to have my voice heard somewhere takes you on a journey. So I often feel that's where being a truth, when I say that, I guess it just comes from that angle of saying, hey, you have to have that streak, and that streak you should have an awareness to, therefore control and channelize it in a good way. Every artist, when you see every filmmaker, they all have that streak. That's the reason why you put yourself out there where others are happy to say, I'll watch you perform, or I'll watch you play the movie, I'll listen to the music. That's the difference between an artist and a consumer, I feel.
Right. So you're basically saying that the difference is what you're talking about, the desire to be different.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. A desire to acknowledge that something about you is seeking extra from the universe than what you're getting.
Right.
So that work every time you create is that. It satiates that hunger of yours.
But this self-awareness, does it work against comedy sometimes? Because you're saying basically that you're a needy person, right? It's like, I want laughs. I want you to, like, kind of a thing. And you're saying that you leave it out there every time you step out of the stage.
I try to.
Okay.
So does it help with comedy? Absolutely, because every time there's an evolution as a comedian, the self-awareness helps you understand where it's coming from, and you have to know where it's going to. At least as a creator, I like to understand it. I don't want it to ever just be a thing of, and then be like, it's my freedom of expression.
Right.
No, everything comes from a place of conditioning and a place. So
right.
I would like to be, so I definitely think self-awareness helps, but yeah, the pitfalls are the fact that you really have some learning every time to keep in. But that's the roller coaster ride you choose when you become an artist, right? You can't sit and be like, have a comfortable spot, I'll take the instrument and play, people will just come and clap, give me standing ovation, bye. No.
Yeah, okay.
It's never that way.
Thanks, Aravind, because it was really nice to get serious about comedy. Because I've always wondered what it's like, because this very traditional image of a comedian is this guy who has a clown mask and then he takes the mask away and the man is crying. That's like from the years that's been a kind of a thing. So it's always been interesting to see what goes behind that comedy. So not that you were crying, but at least you revealed a serious kind of side. So thank you for that. So
thank you. Really glad we had this conversation. So of course, as someone who's consumed your content from the print days to now, it's a pleasure watching you do what you do, and I'm glad to be part of it.
Thank you. All the best for your show. So I Was Not Adida is streaming on Amazon Prime. Do watch it. All the best.
Thank you.